Hello and welcome to this very quick introduction to the CFWheels command line interface. Before I go on, I should mention that this is obviously a very early alpha release, very proof of concept, so if stuff goes wrong and there are bugs, that's kind of to be expected. So what is it? It's a set of custom commands for CommandBox which have been inspired by the Rails command line interface and allows for very fast application setup, some basic scaffolding and configuration setups, as well as a very fast way of running local development web servers for both Lucy and Adobe Cold Fusion without having to install the whole thing every time. And it also will do package management for plugins via ForgeBox and testing, so a command line test runner, which currently works for the core of CFWheels, but will be rolled out to your own tests and plugins as well. Installation's really simple. I'm going to assume you've got CommandBox installed. If you don't, go grab that. You need at least version 3.2. And then from your CommandBox prompt, you just run install CFWheels CLI. This then gives you access to 4 main commands: Wheels New, which creates a new application; Wheels Scaffold, which takes a object name like a user or a dog or something and creates the appropriate database fields; the basic controller with create, update, delete, etc., and the associated model and view files, including some basic form fields and output fields. Wheels Generate allows you to just create a single part of that, so the single controller or just the model file or whatever. The scaffolding command actually uses the generate command under the hood. Wheels DB Migrate, so this allows the command line interface to talk to the DB Migrate plugin, which we install by default when we do a Wheels New command, and it basically allows you to move your database schema around a bit and move it up or down depending on what you've done. So I think the best way to demonstrate this is actually to show you in real code. So the first thing I'm going to do is boot up CommandBox. Next, I've not installed the Wheels commands on here, so I'm going to install them first. And that's done. So now I should be able to just do Wheels info just to give us some information about the package, and we can just check it's working. So that's great. So in here I've got nothing in here, so I'm going to create a new app and I'm going to do the Wheels New command, and this will kickstart the wizard. So the first thing it's going to ask me is a name for my application. I'm going to do my app. Then it's going to ask me for a reload password because we're trying to set all this configuration up for you quickly. So we're just going to set that for foo, and then it's going to ask me if the data source name is different from what the default is, which will be the name of your application. So mine's going to be the same. For full disclosure, I have already set up this MySQL database in the background, so normally you would have to go and set that up on top. And then it's going to ask me what I want to what default CFML engine I want to use, and I'm going to stick with Lucy for the moment. The other thing this is currently doing, which may or may not make it into a final version, is some templating via Twitter Bootstrap. So this particular configuration option just installs a plugin and changes some of the settings to make your life a bit quicker and a bit easier. So I'm going to do that. Then it asks me, are you sure? Yeah, sure, let's go on. This prompt here is just removing it from the cache. There's a small bug, so just click yes on here. And that's gone and getting 1.45 from ForgeBox, and it's installed it. So now we need to just have a quick check and see exactly what that's actually done. So you can see I've got my app folder. Under config, you can see it's set the application name. Let's just make this a bit bigger. And under settings, it's set a default data source name. It's turned on URL rewriting. It's set the rewrite file to index.cfm, which is what we need for CommandBox. And it's added our reload password. And it's also added some default settings for Bootstrap just to make it work a little better. You'll also see down here, you'll see a URL rewrite.xml file, which is what CommandBox is going to use because it's using Tucky under the hood, and a default server.json file. And this lets us start the local web server really quickly. The other thing it's done is installed a couple of plugins, dbmigrate bridge, which is what we use to let the CLI talk to dbmigrate, and a FlashRubber plugin, which is again part of that Bootstrap bit. And because I asked for that Bootstrap extras, it's also just put a slightly more fleshed out layout file here. So to start the scaffolding process, we first need our local development server running. So we're going to do that with server start. And then we've got Wheels 1.45. And we can see we've already got the plugins registered and everything acting as it should. Now let's try adding a model. So we're going to do Wheels scaffold, and we're going to call it a user, so it's the user model. And that has done a database migration file. It's created the controller, created the view files, model file, etc. It's also run the database migration. So now, if we go and look in the database, we'll see two things. We'll see schema info, which corresponds to the schema that we're currently on, and we'll see a users table. And by default, that's got an auto-incrementing ID, created at, updated at, and deleted at columns, which are sort of Wheels defaults. But if we want to add a new column to that quickly, why don't we do Wheels generate property, and we're going to do it on the user object, and the property name is going to be is active, and we're going to make it a boolean. And we can use tab completion here as well, because I can't remember how I did this, so I can't remember how to set the default. So I can press tab here, and you see CommandBox completes the command for me. So I've got two commands here in this position. I've got whether to allow nulls and what the default should be. So in this case, I actually want to make this boolean not allow nulls, so I'm going to have false there, and I want the default to be false too. And so it's created the column, it's migrated you automatically, and it's also inserted into the various view forms the column. So if we go back to the database, just to have a quick check, we go to design table, we can see is active. It's automatically done it as a tiny int of length 1, not null, and that has a default value of 0. So that's pretty good. So how does this actually look in the app now? Because this has got all the URL rewriting sorted for you, you can actually now just go straight to users. And because I put that bit of bootstrapping in, it looks a little bit more sensible. So I can do create new user, and here is our checkbox ready to go. And so let's create this user, and here's our index, and I can do view, edit, and delete, obviously. So this is really meant to be just a starting point, so you can build stuff really quickly, and you can obviously add more and more stuff. So we could do Wheels generate property, and we're going to do on the user model, we're going to do first name. This defaults to a string, by the way, so you can just do first name, and then you might want a last name, and then you might want a biography field, which we'll call bio, and actually we can pass, I think, text type into that. That should create a text area, and maybe a date, so we could have last logged in, and we'll have as a date time You can either have date time, timestamp, etc. And let's have another look at that. So if we do create another new user, we've got first name, so is active field, first name, last name, bio is a text field, and this is just the sort of default Wheels date time picker. I've not quite got round to rendering those properly yet, but hopefully that should give you an idea what's doable. I'd love for people to give it a go and tell me what I'm missing, and tell me how it works for you.